Welcome back to another episode of Camp Time is Real Time. I'm your host, Sarah Lebrecq. We've got a good one this week. Guys, it's Colby. Colby is a head counselor at camp right now. Colby was the boating head counselor last year, and he's got a big announcement on where he'll be this year. He's also got some thoughts about what constitutes a woods activity. We talk a lot about how Colby knew this was the place and some of the things he's done. And we also rounded out with some talks about smells at camp, as you do. It's really good. It was a really great conversation. So stick around after this housekeeping. Send me an email, camptimefcdc@gmail.com. And give us a follow, camptime_realtime over on Instagram. I think everyone can attest that if you email me, I will email you back. It's not scary. And I can promise you this, everyone wants to hear your story. So shoot me an email, camptimefcdc@gmail.com. And one last thing, let's not forget, August 5th, Inside the Elks, the 50th reunion party. Be there. End of sentence. It's going to be great. As soon as there are more details, I'll pass along what I know. But August 5th, put it in your calendar. Inside the Elks. All right, guys, enjoy the episode with Colby.
Well, I started at camp very late. My first year was a Cherokee, so I think I was 10.
Did you have Ty?
No, I had Greg. With the Cherokees. But
Great.
Yep. And so I got introduced to it because, so I went to a lot of different summer camps before camp, and I hated summer camp. I hated it. I could not find, my parents were trying to find a place that me and my brothers would really like and really enjoy. And I remember they found this place because they had a friend or something who was sending their kids there. And I remember my first day of camp too, getting out of the car, you're greeted by the staff member. And I literally remember saying to myself, oh boy, here's another one. Here's another camp, just another one. But I just think that's so funny too, because here I am, 10 years later, and coming back for my second year as a head counselor. But yeah, and I think too, what did it was my mom heard the name Tom Cowell, and she was a soccer player at Medfield. And so she played for Susan Cowell. And on top of that, Tom was also the athletic director.
Yeah.
And so as soon as she heard the name Tom Cowell, she's like, oh, okay, this has a lot of potential. This does a lot of potential. And I remember talking to Tom and be like, oh, do you know, being a 10-year, do you know my mom, Karen, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, oh my goodness, your mom was the greatest soccer player ever. And that just meant a lot to me. The head director of this camp being a 10-year-old, looking up, he knew my mother, remember my mother. It just seemed like such a cool, little flex,
Oh, big time. Yeah.
But yeah, and it's I kind of had a late start, and then I just kind of I fell in love with it. Me and my younger brother Nick, who's a year younger than me, we both just fell in love with the camp. And then eventually, I think it was the next year, my mom sent my other brother Tommy, who Ty is very familiar with, and he's 5 years younger than me. So she sent Tommy, and he started as a tenderfoot.
He's gonna be a CIT this year.
He's gonna be a CIT. I'm so excited for him.
You started when you were a Cherokee, and have you been going straight through?
Yep. So I was a Cherokee, Apache, Mohican, Dakota, and then did my 2 years as a CIT and assistant, and now I'm a head counselor.
Oh, we were wondering this actually. I was asking Aiden. I was like, I'm talking to Colby, and he's like, cool. I was like, what activity does he do? He's like, I have no idea. I'm gonna ask. Yeah. What do you do?
So I was the boating counselor last year.
The best.
Yes. Yeah. It was always my favorite activity as a camper too. So I was so excited to be able to do it.
Yeah.
But I will be heading to a different area of camp this summer.
Oh,
okay.
Maybe a little more artsy. That's all I'll say. That's all I'll say for now. Leave a little surprise for camp.
Excited to have you as one of my fellow arts counselors. Well,
Yeah.
Yep.
That'll be great. Oh man, it'll be great.
Although Ty, I guess I'm not a woods counselor anymore.
No, not in the woods anymore, unfortunately.
if
I think
ever
I'm in the
was.
woods. I think I'm going to start considering theater as part of the woods too. Then.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
right.
where.
Keep the joke going.
Yeah, when I heard the whole is boating part of the woods, I was like, I don't understand what's happened at this camp. It's not. You got to get over the
See,
bridge.
I have to be honest. That was I really just I tried to push it last year that boating was a woods activity.
Okay.
And now that I'm out of boating, like, I'm not gonna lie, I don't really think it's a woods activity so
I,
much.
I see where you
I
were
think
going with it,
I
though.
yeah, because like you do go like into the woods, but I don't really think like it has like the same properties as a woods activity, you know.
I don't know. I would
But
say if there's no bug spray, you're not woods. But that's
yeah, that's a good requirement.
That is
Yeah.
good. Well, I think like for me, the distinguishing factor always was like, was it over the bridge? Right? Like
yeah.
well,
if
it was
yes,
though. It's boating then. It
not
was just not quite over it.
not
It was
quite over.
not quite through it.
Yeah.
It's like
Almost. Yeah.
yeah, it's like halfway. I'm trying to come up with ideas that I can like do like a little spin on ceramics, to, like make it my own, you know, and not just make it about forming clay into stuff, but like maybe doing like things that you wouldn't expect to do in ceramics, you know? So yeah,
like
but
like
also like incorporating ceramics into it, you know, like not changing the activity, but like you using it in like a different way. So I'm excited. I'm very excited. I think anywhere you can get placed at camp is just it's you make the best out of it, you know, because
yeah.
there's not a single bad activity at camp, like or else it wouldn't be there, you know.
Right.
So anywhere you go, you're gonna have a blast.
And isn't it funny? Well, for me anyway, it was like whatever activity you were in, even though like that's what you are, like you are the games counselor, you are the like I feel like that was secondary or almost tertiary. Like it was just like the being at camp in general is what I remember from those years, not necessarily the like, oh, we played Smog's Jewels for 5 activities in a row, which we did.
Well, I think a reason too why I tried to spread so much that boating was a woods activity is because I am just very thrilled by nature. I just like I love nature. I just like it. I really enjoy it. Like I like the I don't know. Like I like the woods a lot. You know, I like
Yeah.
going for hikes and stuff. And so that's kind of always like why why I want to do wood lore or like even pioneering I would do too. Because like I think there's a lot of really great things that you can learn from those activities, and I feel like I have a lot of knowledge about it too. Um,
Nice.
but yeah,
Right.
so like that's always been something like I've just enjoyed. You know.
What a diplomatic answer.
Yeah.
Anywhere,
Very
anywhere works. Like, who were the counselors when you were a camper? Like, who were your like Cherokee, Apache, those people?
Yeah, so like I said, when I was a Cherokee, I had Greg as my head counselor, and he was awesome. I remember absolutely loving Greg, and like that was awesome too, because that was my introduction to camp. Um, and then as an Apache, I had Sam, and that was just something like in and of itself. Being an Apache with Sam Cowell was an unbelievable experience because like he just had all these like creative ideas. Like we did Marshmallow Tuesdays with Sam, where we would like use the fire pit down below a boating and or he called it Toasted Tuesdays, and we'd like make s'mores over the fire, and then we'd walk around camp with our before we would like roast them over the fire, we'd walk around camp with our marshmallows on our sticks, just chanting marshmallow, marshmallow. And
That's
I
amazing.
thought that was so funny. It's actually something I kind of brought back last summer when I was down at boating. I kind of made it like a thing to make sure that like I was taking advantage of like that fire pit that I had down there
Yeah.
with my troop and roasting marshmallows. And then as a Mohican, um I had Brian, or Brain as a lot of
Brain.
people might know him now. Yep.
Brain.
And my group was actually the one who came up with the nickname for Brain because it was the red, white, and blue it's like staff roster that that was up on the bulletin board. and I think Tom misspelled his name to Brain. And so like my whole tribe, like the whole Mohican tribe was like over there looking at it, and we saw Brain and we all started dying laughing. So from then on, like the whole summer, we would just call him Brain, and then it just caught on, and everybody else at camp called him Brain.
Yeah, that was
and
a
then
Shay Mitchell mistake.
That's right.
It must have been.
If
Yeah,
you recall
right?
from podcast number.
That's right. Yeah, we learned from Shay. That was that was
yes,
hers.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, checks out.
And then as a Dakota, I had Allie.
Okay.
And that's always fun because it's so special too, like when you're the oldest, when you're like the oldest group.
Yeah.
And you also have like that dynamic of like Allie and John Panciaco and like both like the Cheyennes and Dakotas doing silly things with each other. Like being a Dakota was awesome.
Wait, and then who was like in your troop the whole time?
Oh yeah. So I had Caitlin Panciaco was always in, she was never in my group, but she was always in like the opposite like track of mine.
Yeah.
Someone who I really grew up with at camp though was Tristan. Tristan and I were always in the same group every single year. And I always think that's really cool to look back on because like you look back and like now like both of us like head counselors and like we kind of like grew up at camp together somewhat. Cause like I came a lot later than him, but yeah. And I think those are the only people left of my age group that are currently at camp. Some
That's
other,
pretty
I
good.
think.
That's
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Still 3 of you. When I was going through camp, for me, we had only 6 CITs. And then it was one of the years that like there were like no openings afterwards. So there was just 2 of us that went through. And Ty, do you remember Liz Baxter? She actually was in theater or music or theater. And then she and I were the only ones that continued through till heads. I can't remember actually if Liz went away for a little bit or not.
You know what? She must have come before me then.
Yeah. Oh, she did. Yeah.
The name is so familiar though.
Yeah. She used to do you guys still do body parts at Sing? Like you go up and you're like, I can do this. Like my
body talent.
Body talent. Yeah.
Oh, it's
That's
still
been
there.
relegated to like the joke time.
Yes.
You know, it's for jokes, body talents, and riddles.
Yeah, I think there was one summer where it just got unbelievably out of hand with just like so many people just coming up to do body talents that like we started to have we had to like regulate it a lot. And I think there was even one time where it was like, all right, if your head counselor is on team blue, then you can come up on this day and do a body talent. If you're on team white, then you can come up on this day because we'd get to sing and there'd just be a line of like 20, 30 campers all wanting to go up and say jokes or do body talents.
Did you ever have a body talent, Colby?
Yep. I had the classic thumb that goes a little far back. Like
Colby!
Oh, you
Colby,
do?
look!
Oh, we got matching body talents.
Oh, I feel left out.
Oh, wow. That was, I want to say that when they started, I think they called it body parts way back in the day. I want to say it was maybe the first year it was like a thing, but who knows? So I was like, look what I can do. And they were like, wow. And Liz Baxter, she was like a gymnast dancer, could take her leg and kick her head in the back. She like standing up, she could kick her head, real talent. And that was what, a lot of people remember about Liz.
I think my favorite thing about body talents is just like, it could be like the most like basic body talent, like someone just like flaring their nostrils and the whole camp will just go crazy for it. And everybody will just have like a huge applause. Be like, yeah, body talent.
More, please.
Yeah.
I always liked when Tom on anything, whether it was like another body talent or like a kid who's up at Sing a lot would just like kind of whisper over and be like, did you check in with your head counselor about this? Like, are you supposed to be up here? The kid's like, oh yeah, I got the sign off.
It's okay. And it's like, did he?
I don't know. So like in the case of like Caitlin, like what was it like having someone in your tribe whose parent worked there, particularly when it's John Panciaco? Were you like, oh my
Well,
gosh?
so
that'd be-
she was never in my tribe. She
Oh,
was always in
sorry.
the
That's right.
opposite one.
Wasn't listening.
But
Yep.
I think we still did some stuff together that I think we would do like lunch in the cargo net because John was at Adventure, and like like if the Cheyennes are gonna do them, Dakotas are gonna join too.
Oh, are the Cheyennes and Dakotas the same age?
Yes, they were the same age. Yeah.
Okay, so they're the oldest two tribes. Okay.
Yes.
Was there and which one was like at the very top of the circle?
The Dakotas were.
Dakotas.
And I was a Dakota, yeah.
You were a Dakota. Nice. Was there like, were you hoping for that, or were you like, did you kind of know, like, because you can kind of
figure it out, right?
Yeah, so like so that's a good question. You can definitely figure it out, but I do remember always like wanting to be a Dakota. And I think a lot of it kind of had to do with Allie, and absolutely nothing against John Pansiak at all, of course, like he incredible. But I just always like, I loved how like silly Allie was at saying. I remember she would do these things where like she would like take balls and like everyone would stuff them in their shorts, and then we'd go up and like we do like silly dances with like balls stuck in our shorts, making it look like our butts are really big. And yeah, I just thought I don't know, that was like my type of humor as a kid. So so when I was like a younger kid, I was like, oh, like I want to do that one day.
Yeah.
But yeah,
we're learning a lot that like we all have kind of a similar type of humor because of camp. It's like, it's almost like I don't know, Ty, to use like a baking analogy, it's like a yeast starter, right? And we're all in the same lineage.
We're all in the
it's
same,
like, yeah, like it started 50 years ago. And so what are some things you've done with your kids?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it not only really comes from being a camper, but also going up through like the CIT and assistant roles as well. Because being a CIT and assistant, you kind of get to bounce around a lot. And like, like as a camper, I was only a camper for 4 years. So I only had 4 head counselors. But like when you're CIT and assistant, you bounce around so much, like you get to see what every head counselor kind of does. So I really think I learned a lot more from that. Like I learned so much from Scott, because like he was so, Scott, he's so big on nature and like going for hikes. And I really learned to love that being his assistant in Woodlore. And so even when I was just in boating, I made it a habit to go out on hikes with my group a lot. Like at least like once or twice a week, I try to go for a hike. I try to take them here, there, like, and also being in Woodlore, you learn, like you kind of learn the way throughout the woods. Yeah. It's like, I kind of like had like a good like knowledge of where to take them and like what are the cool spots to go to and what are some of the not so cool spots to go to. But yeah, nice. I would say that's like probably one of the biggest things I've learned. And I think it also skits are one of the toughest things as a head counselor, and especially being a new head counselor. But doing skits as a camper and like knowing like what was a fun skit to do and like what like wasn't really that fun of a skit to do, like that's something that like I was able to really incorporate into being a head counselor. Like I really tried to give like each camper like their own like kind of role, or like give them like a little bit of like individuality when it came to like doing skits, instead of like all of us just doing something like where everybody says the same thing, like I kind of wanted to like make sure that like every camper kind of felt special when they're up there on stage doing a skit, because that's kind of the way I learned as a camper to enjoy.
I mean, I only know how to make myself feel special during a skit, but
I mean, Ty, you would raise kids up in your arms like they were Simba from The Lion King. I wouldn't be too humble.
So you don't think you would have appreciated doing, say, the same skit for 6 weeks in a row?
No.
Shoot.
No, definitely. No, I mean, yeah. I think there's like some people might like find, I think every head counselor kind of has like their own like model when it comes to skits. You know what I mean? Like every head counselor kind of has like their own like really style and type of way that like, they want to do skits. Like Mike Cowell, I know, like loves to like put together huge scripts and like tell like a whole story as if he's telling his own like sci-fi novel, like likes to cross over like a bunch of different like sci-fi like brands, or like Star Wars and Marvel. But yeah, that's kind of like that. That's kind of like what I think about it.
That's amazing. I love it.
I have like a kind of inside baseball question for you, Colby. I feel like when like my first year, I think you were just like a CIT then. Like I feel like it was already pretty cemented that you would like go on to be like a head counselor. Did you feel like that you like had like a plan of attack to get to like a goal to get there, or did you do anything like for CITs or assistants now to like get the spot, or was it just something that like you just were you and that's just what you do?
Great question.
That is a really good question.
Little
I
insider,
actually think,
outside.
yeah.
It's all inside baseball.
um, so I actually think it started well before being a CIT.
Hmm.
I I fell in love with camp so fast that I think I really knew that I wanted to be here for as long as I could. And like just as a camper, like I remember wanting to have Tom's job one day, you
Yeah.
know. And I really think I think the first thing that really like um kind of cemented that was when I was in Apache. And I remember we did a skit, and it was like one of the biggest skits ever because it was the Apache and Micmacs came together. Yep. So Tom White and Billy were the head counselors of the Micmacs, and then Sam was my head counselor in the Apache, and we came together to do one massive skit, and the theme was Broadway, and so we did Camp the Musical.
Of course.
And
Ooh,
Famous Camp the
yes,
Musical.
yes, and so I played Tom Cowell in Camp the Musical, and like I went up and like sang my own lines, and I just remember that being so huge for me as a camper, and just really being able to represent Tom in a skit like that and being chosen for
yeah.
like being chosen for something like that. It was just like it meant a lot to me, and like it really kind of showed like this place is like where I belong, you know. And that's kind of like what made me realize like I want to go on for a while. And then I remember too as a CIT that I remember my second year as a CIT, Tom had me come into his office and he sat me down, and he just told me like how proud he was of me for like coming
Oh,
so far, and like for being like so open and outgoing. And he told me too, he was, because I remember Cam Desmond was a phenomenal CIT, went with everything, did some of the worst stuff CITs do. But he was a great CIT, and he didn't come back to be an assistant that year. But I got to just add in, I'm so happy that he's back as a head counselor. I was ecstatic when I found out he's come back last summer. Um, but I remember Tom goes, you know, like you're like the new Cam Desmond of CITs. And like I really looked up to Cam because he was a year older than me, and like I thought he was so funny. And so when he said that to me, I was like, oh, like that's awesome. Like I just like that gave me so much joy,
You
you
got
know.
the confirmation that you were like on the
Wow.
track of it at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so from there it was kind of just like I knew like I my personality and who I was really fit camp.
Wow. That's awesome. That's really cool.
Try a little bit about that. Just like the thought of like Tom sitting you down for that.
Like, I'm so proud of you. The hand
Yeah.
on the shoulder. Here, I don't know if you'll remember this, but just thinking about that Camp the Musical, do you remember how you were chosen to be Tom? Like, was Sam like, all right, we're gonna have someone be Tom. Who wants to be it? Was it like everyone put their hand up, or was he like, Colby, it's you? Do you remember?
Yeah, I do remember.
Yeah.
I remember it was at the end of a day because like we had talked about the idea and we came up like with the idea and like we all agreed on it. And then it was like the end of a camp day and we're all sitting at post waiting for our parents to come pick us up. And Sam goes, "Hey Colby, like I want to talk to you here on the side." And so and he brought me into the tent and he goes, "Oh, like I really want you to play Tom in Camp the Musical. Are you up for it?" And I was like, "Absolutely, yes, yes, yes." Um,
Wow.
but then I something that's really funny though is I remember because he picked two other people to play. What was it? It was Gail and AJ. Um, to play Gail and AJ, and I remember we would do like the three of us would rehearse on our own because we had like the solo songs. And I remember the two other people were really good at singing and I was really bad. And Sam was trying to critique me in like the nicest way possible to try to get me to sing better. I just think that's so funny. Like he picked me for the role, but like I was just such a bad, like so bad at singing. But
Oh my God. Wow. That's very cool because that was Cherokee. That was just your second year as a camper, right?
Yep. Yeah, as an
So
Apache. Yeah.
that's pretty great. He was
And
like,
I
we've
think I think too, like any campers listening, I think what really what what made me seem like such like a good person for something like that was because I was so active at camp. Like at during sing, I would always go up and do something. Like I would always be the one like in the group who was like, oh hey, like, do we all want to sing a song today? Or like, like I would like I feel like I was kind of the person that was very like just outgoing and like really excited for those parts of camp.
that's a good tip.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's not just going up to sing, but like when you're sitting in the audience, like singing along. Like as we know, we're all to sing as counselors, and if not, we'll watermelon away. But
Yeah.
like, just singing along and not being bored that it's not you up there. I think that those are things that anyone sitting on the picnic table kind of picks up on, and I would
Mm,
imagine that you were engaged
yeah.
even when you were up there. I think that probably is a tip as well. And also, like, let's not take one moment of sing for granted because it is the best. I love
Sing
sing.
is Sing is one of my favorite parts of camp. I mean, it's so unique too. Like, where do you go places where everybody just sits down, um, and anybody can go up and do literally whatever they want and
Right.
get a huge round of applause after?
Yeah.
Like, where do you go for something like that? Or like even just little things like bringing up like three counselors to be part of the band, or doing freeze dance at Sing. Like it just it's so special.
Yeah. I
The
love
glue.
sing. Yeah, it
Yeah.
is the glue. It totally is.
Glue.
Does Sam still say that? That it's the like at orientation,
No,
like it's the glue, or is that just we all just assume?
I think we all just know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
We're gonna hammer it in. When I can't remember if I put it on a podcast or not. I think I did, but one of my favorite things to do at Sing is I used to sit next to my friend Shannon Delaney,
Mhm.
and we would just speed up the pace of the song just by being louder than whoever was up there. We're like, all right, we're doing it double time. Like, and it's like there's nothing anyone can do about it. So the whole camp's like, okay, we're speeding through it now. It's the best. Love
That's
Sing.
a good way to, because I think that I think something that happens with Sing a lot is that it runs very long. So I
Yep.
think it's also just like I think that's just a good way to like be able to shorten it down and just
Yeah.
I love it when like when it's the people singing who are the ones who get bored and like they want to, like when Kelly does like a swimming and she's like, but I'm done, I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
She's
Exactly.
already off before the song's over.
Exactly. She's like, that's a wrap. We'll see you next session. It's so great. Oh my gosh. Um, so Colby, what are you majoring in? Is it anything education wise? I'm wondering how much longer we have you for.
So it is. So I am a history major with a minor in education. So I am
Oh,
pursuing a career as a teacher. Summer's off.
yep.
So yeah.
We got a lifer on our hands, people. We got a lifer on our hands. That's fantastic. You could be working in the Medfield public school system in no time.
Right.
Toby has a wonderful and very tasteful tattoo.
You do? Let me see it.
So yeah, so this tattoo I got at the beginning of the summer last year.
What does it
And
say?
I
Making memories, changing lives?
Basically.
no,
Oh,
but that's on the bucket list though. That is on the bucket list.
okay.
Um, but so I think not a lot of people knew what it said at first, and they were just kind of like, "Oh, like Kobe got like a tattoo," and then
Right.
people started asking me like, "Oh, what does it say?" And I would just I would never say it out loud, but I would just show them because it says "raise a little he double hockey stick." And so that was kind of like a joke that went around camp that I had that tattoo. And so people started saying, raise a little what? Raise a little what? Or raise a little hello. um,
That's
and
great.
um, and the tattoo comes from just like a really special place that I used to go to. And someone who I look up to is Paul Newman. Just for a number of reasons, because he was a really incredible philanthropist. And part of his philanthropy impacted my family directly. And so that was just something that he always said, like that was his motto. And so that's kind of why I got it tattooed. Um, but that was just kind of like a little joke that went around camp, was like my tattoo. And I thought it was hilarious.
But like
I
the
love
moment I saw
joking
you
about
get
it.
it, I was like, what are you going to do at camp? You have to wear tank tops eventually.
Oh my gosh, I know. Didn't yeah, you like messaged me and was like, oh my goodness, Colby, like what is this tattoo? I think you brought up the idea of putting tape over like the last word or something.
I said, add the O, add
Yeah.
the O at the end.
So Colby, I obviously we just met, which is wonderful. So Aiden was his first summer was supposed to be 2020. And, obviously with COVID, it didn't happen. And I have to tell you, when all of a sudden I get an email from camp and it's like, oh, we have a little video from all of our counselors. I'm like, this is the most amazing thing ever. Come to find out, you're responsible for that?
Yes. So
Love it.
I remember when Sam called me and was like, and gave me the news, no camp this summer, and it absolutely bummed me out. But the first thing, like I thought, and like I kind of like, we all kind of saw it coming.
Right.
And like I had been thinking about it a little while. I'm like, oh, like no camp, but like what are some ways that like, and like I wasn't even thinking about just from me. I'm just like, oh, like what are some things that maybe like camp could do this summer? And like I kind of just, and I was like, oh, like, like that would be a really good idea. And I saw like a friend of mine went to a summer camp where they did something very similar, where they like kind of just like went to the camp and was like, oh, like we're sorry, we're gonna miss you this summer. And so that really gave me inspiration for it. And I brought the idea up to Sam. I was like, oh, hey, like what if we did something like this? And I thought, and I was kind of just giving him the idea, and he goes, oh, like that's a great idea. Would you want to do it? And I'm like, okay, sure. Like I don't, and I was like, all right, like that's a big assignment, but you know what? Like it was COVID. We weren't doing anything. Like you had so much time at home. I was like, you know what? Like I bet I could do this. Like I really enjoyed the challenge of it. And oh my goodness, was that a challenge? It took me weeks, I think, to get that done, and like reaching out to counselors, being like, oh, like send in videos, blah, blah, or like just having to edit it. I'm sure from editing these podcasts, like it can be so tough and meticulous. And yeah, and like I remember just like staying up late at night, just like working on it. And then there was like videos that were missing. Like I sent in a like the final product to Sam, and he goes, oh, that's great, but where's Gail and Sue? And I'm like, where is Gail and Sue? And
Right.
I just totally forgot to put that part of the video in it. So I'd have to go back and like re-edit it. But it was honestly,
who else was missing from that video was me, because calling you out never got an invitation to be a part of this video.
Well,
I did
So-
notice that. Did you just have them send in like videos from their phone and then you just put them together? Do you have any experience doing that?
Very little experience, very, very little experience. I don't really like, I'm not like much of like, I mean, like I'm like as tech savvy as like anybody my age, but like I'm not like, like I'm not like super into like video editing, stuff like that. Like I would maybe do it for school sometimes. So I had very little experience. So it was definitely a challenge. But I enjoyed it. And yeah, so when I reach out to people, I kind of just ask them, hey, like send in like a 10 to 20-second clip of yourself, maybe do something like silly, like something you do at Sing, or like some sort of like camp thing. And like, then I'll throw it all together. And I think one of my favorite ones was Mike Cowell. Because Mike Cowell put so much into his video. He goes, oh, over the summer, like find something fun to do. Hattie here, he is studying to get his GED. Meanwhile, I'm training for next year's camp competitions. And then like he goes and tries to put himself through like, I don't even know, like a laundry drying rack. And like he tries to like fit himself through like the drying rack. And then like he gets out and starts celebrating. I thought that one was so funny and so creative.
And it ended up, it was like 3 or 4 minutes. It was long. It was.
Oh, I think it was like 10.
Was it more?
10 minutes.
Maybe it was 10. Maybe it was 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I actually,
like 10 minutes. It's so funny too, because like, I actually just watched that video like the other day, because I was just scrolling through old photos on my phone.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you from a parent's perspective, particularly in the summer of 2020, which weird times, it was awesome. It was so great. And you could, you could feel something like cathartic about it. Like I would imagine from the counselor's perspective, those who were asked, of just a like, oh, this is something we put, like, this is our camp. Like, this is camp for this year. We did it. And it was a way to kind of keep the like FCDC family at large together, because I think I said to Carrie on the air, they sent out a holiday card that year in 2020. It was like, we miss you, like, we'll see you soon. The video came out that year, and it really did help to keep it going. Even though we couldn't be together, it really did help. So the fact that that was you, I'm very pleased to that happened, and thank you. Like, it was awesome. And I think, Ty, your question about, oh, Colby, like, when did you know this was your track? I think we have two major touchstones. One, Tom singling you out, saying you're doing a great job. And then and then playing Tom as an Apache, and then making this video and saying, like, yeah, like, at some point you look back and you're like, oh, I had it in the bag the whole time.
But I gotta say, it was clear to me, like, from the start that
Really?
Colby was like camp material. And he was my CIT. Were you like the first session of that I was there first year back?
I remember that session. Yeah, it was your first session. I remember seeing you two walking around. I'm like, who is this guy? Because like, you just like, you walked in with like a swagger, like you had like this upbeat attitude, like, yeah, and you were wearing some really like hilarious shirt too. And I was like, that is a funny shirt. And then like I had no idea what to expect when I was put in theater with you, but I had a blast that week. And I remember too, because I was also placed with one of my best friends, Maya, in that week that I was with you. So it was like, I think me, you, and her just had like a really great dynamic too.
It was good. It was a good group, that one.
Yeah. And oh my gosh, I'm totally forgetting too the fact that my little brother was in the tribe. Yeah, he was literally in the tribe when I was your CIT, and so was Maya's little sister. So it was awesome.
That's right. And then Maya's little sister too. That was exactly. I got the brothers and sisters in pairs. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
It's a family affair. Have you been training Tommy at all for his big year as a CIT? Have you been giving him like the run of like what to do?
A little bit, because he is a little nervous for it. But yeah, he's but like, I'm just trying to tell him like, hey, like, just be open, just like, it's camp, like, just express yourself, like, don't be scared to ever do anything, like, because like the quicker, I think a term that I've heard a lot since I've started as a staff member is coming out of your shell. Because I think that's kind of what you see with a lot of counselors, like when they first start as like a CIT, they're very like reserved and quiet, and like maybe just like are a little like scared to act, to like raise their voice or like to go up and like do something at sing. But then like as they start to like get into camp, they just open up, like they come out of their shell and they start to like become more energetic and more excited about doing things, like very like not fearful, And so that's kind of something I've just been trying to tell him is like, like, come out of your shell early, like don't take too long, like, it obviously everybody like is scared, like you're starting as like a staff member and you're only 13, 14 years old, like, and you're working with people who are like double your age, so but like that's just kind of what I told him, like, don't be scared of judgment, don't be scared to just express yourself, because it's camp, and that's what camp is meant for.
He's gonna be great as a CIT. He's a 1 in a million kid.
Yeah. This is the place to make those mistakes.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be all constructive. That's the best part, right? It's like, it's funny. I was thinking just today that, I started out as a tenderfoot and went through, and I remember as a CIT, right in the moment where on the first day of camp, I had the sheet with the names and I'm standing at the fence, getting ready to open a car door. And it was at that moment that I had like 30 seconds to a minute of like, oh my gosh, like this is about to happen. What am I going to do? What's the plan? And even though I had been going to the camp for 10 years or whatever at that point, there was the little bit of nerves. And looking back, I'm like, oh, it was because it like mattered so much that I did it right and like did it the right way. Like I was about to be the person who I had only been on the other end of that. And I also felt the same way my first day as a head counselor. It was like, oh, I'm in charge. Like I need to make sure that the tribe runs like the way I want it to. I want these kids to have a good time. And it was like, oh, it's so weird that I'm a little bit nervous for this place that I know like inside and out. And I'm assuming, Colby, after talking to you for 45 minutes, that you have a little bit of that in you, that you care.
Yeah. Yeah. So I do want to say real quick too, like you were talking about like being a head counselor, like the first day. The first day of being a head counselor is easily like the most tiring and wearing out day of like your camp career. Like that is like the most stressful day ever. But yeah, I think it's just like, yeah, you kind of care for it because you grow up being a camper at camp, looking up to your counselors, looking up to these CITs and assistants and head counselors and thinking these people are so cool. Like they're so fun. Like they just know how to have a good time. And then when you're kind of put into that role, it's really easy to adapt having seen other people do it before. And like that's kind of, I think that's just where it comes from. Like if you really care about camp and like if you really enjoy yourself there and make the best out of it, then like there's when you become a head counselor, become any sort of counselor, like you're just gonna take that enthusiasm and put it into your work. And that's why I don't even think that, like, I don't consider camp my work. It's not work for me. Like it's just like it's an added bonus that I get paid. That's all it is, you know, it's just like something so special. Something so special.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Colby, you remind me a lot of myself. I really like the way you think. But so tell me about you said you were very familiar with punishments at camp. I almost can't believe this. What are you doing to get in trouble? What's going on?
Oh my God. So as a CIT and assistant, and even as a head counselor, I have gone through a lot. I've done just about every punishment I think there is. Dead ants, person, place, thing, gray
What's
squirrel.
Person, place, thing?
Oh, you don't know person, place,
thing? I don't know what that is. What is that?
So you have to go up and take 3 suggestions from the audience without rehearsing anything at all on the spot. You're given a person, a place, and a thing. And you have to come up with a song about it on the spot, right then and there. And that's honestly, amazing. I actually love it. I actually thought that was so fun. It was so like creatively like challenging that I had a really good time with it. And another thing I did that was very similar to that, I remember there was one time someone brought in donuts for the staff. And I think I was just a CIT, and I think I took like 2 or 3 donuts for myself. and so I'd sing that day. All the head counselors went up and was like, Colby, like, you stole the donuts from us. Like, you have to come up. And they made me sing a song about donuts on the spot to them. Or no, you know what? They wanted me to sing the donut song, but I didn't know it. And so they're like, okay, come up with your own donut song right now. And I remember doing that and having such a blast with it. It was just so funny. I've also done sip inside too, but I did chicken out at the part where it gets good of sip inside. And I think because of, I don't know if it's because of that or not, but I know that I was the last ever CIT to have to do sip inside. And I think after that they've been, and maybe it had to do with the fact that I got up there and was like just like a little nervous teenager, just like couldn't even look at the person sitting next to me, like even though it was like a friend,
inside
like,
partner.
Yeah.
It was Julia. Julia was her name.
Julia.
And then but then like the year after that, then Maya and I started getting shipped together, and then we always thought, we would always tell each other, like, we're gonna have to do sip inside, and somehow we never did. But I have had to do like slow dances with tons of counselors just as like punishments, or like, you know, stuff like that. I was telling you, like, so like I said, like I like to use the fire pit down below, And I remember one of my biggest fears was not being able to get the fire going and then all the campers being disappointed. So I remember I left because we had troop time after free swim. And so I left free swim like 30 minutes early to go start the fire.
Oh.
And then because of that, Kelly went up and was like, "Oh, he left early." And so that was a little bit of like an actual serious punishment. um, but I think that's a good way to learn though, right?
So Ty, when you heard we were going to be talking with Colby, what do you think of when you think of Colby?
Well, the thing that got me was like, oh, this guy had it made from like the moment that I met him. I was like, oh, he's got this game in the bag. And so like that's where like that question definitely came in.
Yeah.
But just the kids love Colby so much, and they knew him from like right away from the start, just because and especially like younger kids would love to like grab on to Colby quite a bit.
Yeah.
He's like one of those faces that like people want to just like grab onto,
Right.
But Colby, you're just like you're so great about just like how like dedicated you are with camp, and you come and the best part is that he can come up with a game on the spot just like better than almost anyone. I remember as a CIT he was leading games all the time, and I was like, oh, okay, Colby, there you go right there. Okay.
Game recognizes game. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a favorite smell at camp?
Ooh, one of my favorite smells, I think would have to be just the second Tuesday of a session, because that is cookout day.
Okay,
and you can just walk through the woods and like you smell the smoke, but then you also smell like the food cooking too. And it's a great smell. It really like sends the aroma around camp.
I think there's a smell down outside of the stables, like not in the state. Well, there's a smell to the stables, I would say, just
Definitely.
in general. And then also just outside of it, like those rocks, something about the rocks and like it being a little damp. Yeah. It's just yep. And I can't, who can describe smell, but
I recognize that smell.
Yeah.
My favorite is the curtains at the theater. It's like this like really musty, like there's just like there's some age to that theater curtain. And I remember because I wasn't at the theater this year, a couple of times I would go down and I would just like secretly smell the curtain without Olivia knowing. I would go down there and I would smell. I would get my smells in while I could.
Oh, there used to be back when when archery was the blue whale. It was like a big blue
hay smell. Right?
Oh my gosh! Inside there is like hot hay.
Yeah. Sweaty hay.
Yeah.
That reminds me of something too, because now like with archery, like with like the archery shed, and like there's so many sheds around camp, like you have the boating shed, the archery shed, the game shed. Every shed has like its very specific smell too. Like the boating shed obviously smells like the river. The game shed's newer, I think. So yeah. And then they all just kind of have its own smell. And I remember we'd have to sometimes on a rainy day we'd eat inside the shed. And, you'd be eating you'd be smelling the river on inside the boating shed as you're eating.
Yeah. Those life jackets have that same smell, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's a little bit of river, a little bit of sweat, a little bit of 50 years. It's fine.
I think the tent has a very specific smell.
Yeah.
Like that nylon smell and like AstroTurf.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, lots of different smells, and they change throughout the course of the 6 weeks too.
Oh yeah,
you can smell late August big time,
bug spray and
wet. Definitely.
Yes. I love a good camp smell. Oh, big 5-0.
Yeah. So 50th celebration, I am so excited. And so my first time at camp was the 40th year. And I remember we just made a big deal of it, even though it was just the 40th. I remember the t-shirts were very unique. It was the first ever t-shirt that camp gave out. And it's so funny because I have a very vivid memory of a 3 or 4 year old Eli Cowell walking out into the middle of the circle on my first ever day of camp, wearing the really old t-shirt that says 40 years on the back of it.
Nice.
And like we even put like a plaque down too for the 40th. So like I just think everything that we did just for the 40th anniversary kind of just shows that like the 50th is going to be unbelievably huge. Like I'm so excited for this summer. Yeah,
It's so
it's
fun.
it's going to be a great time. So easily my least favorite smell is the changing room
Yes.
by the pool.
Dude, the smell sucks.
That's a specific smell. Yeah.
It really is.